The school's connections with GB Freestyle and Freestyle Kayaking in general came through Dennis Newton, who was an undergraduate here studying sport and exercise science. And certainly I, for example, hadn't heard of the sport, and he caught me after a first-year lecture when we've been looking at describing how airborne rotations are generated and controlled in sports like gymnastics and diving. And Dennis caught me afterwards and said that, you know, it'd been really useful and he could see how that helped with, he can now understand the somersaulting in their boats. And I kind of smiled and nodded, not really knowing what he meant. I knew he didn't mean doing somersaults in boats, but then he sent me a link through some videos, and it turned out he did mean doing somersaults in boats. So we continued to obviously explore that area with him. He chose to do his final year dissertation looking at the potential of using motion capture in freestyle kayaking, which is probably just about the most challenging environment you can get for motion capture. And then about a year ago, Dennis made contact again with one of my contacts, Sandro, just supporting the athlete development through strength and conditioning, for example. So Sandro's been working with them over the last year, and then more recently, Dennis contacted us to see whether the School of Sport and Exercise Science here at the University of Lincoln would be interested in exploring a longer-term partnership, collaboration with GB Freestyle Kayaking. You know, we're delighted, really excited about that. Today is the first formal session that's linked to that partnership. And we're looking forward to working with the sport and supporting athlete development. Obviously, it gives us an opportunity for us, as well as the coaches and athletes, to better understand the science behind the sport. Our students are getting fantastic opportunity to work in novel areas, to apply the knowledge to new sports and to work with high-performance athletes. We hope it's going to be mutually beneficial moving forward.
I did my research on biomechanics here in this exact lab, and they were so supportive at Lincoln University, you know, giving me the opportunity to investigate freestyle paddle sport, you know, I've kept in touch, you know, with the department and Sandy. And they, you know, after some discussions, they've you know, invited us to come over here into a partnership with Lincoln University and help the athletes. We're a non-Olympic discipline, so you know we rely on you know, organisations like this to support us. I think the main thing today, we're going to look at, you know, various exercises so they can familiarise with themselves with them exercises and gain confidence, and that will enrich their training plans outside of the normal GB freestyle structure in their own personal time. And also, you know, we do lack normative data for freestyle, so it's also understanding the baseline and, you know, getting a good measure for how we're progressing.
So basically, the main aims today were to do some baseline testing with the athletes, because there's nothing out there in terms of research, so that we can try to understand what are the physical characteristics of these athletes, and also just to provide some educative tools for them in terms of training organization and some exercise techniques in the gym.
So sports therapists, they work with sports teams and athletes, and they can be utilised in many ways. One of the main things is injured athletes, so diagnosing, treating and rehabbing sports injuries. They can also be utilised to work with athletes who are fit, in highlighting areas whereby their movement or strength deficits could be improved to help with their athletic performance. So injury-free athletes, a role the sports therapist could take is assessing maybe their movement patterns or strength, and having a look if there's any areas which they can highlight which might be related to their sport and the demands of the sport that could be improved, so whether they can increase ranges of movement or increase strength where they might be lacking, which will all go towards sport-specific movements and enhance their performance in that respect. On an injury side of things, they'll take place in diagnosing what could be the problem, putting together a rehab program from kind of early phase all the way through the gym to return to performance, and steering that athlete from the kind of treatment table back to the sport and performance.
It's been really interesting, I guess, to see where our weaknesses lie, what we're good at, what we're bad at. So that was very interested in how that sort of relates to, for me personally, like how I paddle and what things I'm weak at and how that affects the way I do certain things. Hopefully start incorporating some of the sort of the programming that we've just been through. So actually looking at targeting certain elements of strength and conditioning at certain times throughout the competition year. For British canoeing, yeah, I mean, this is the first time as a whole group we've been anywhere and done anything like this. And hopefully it sort of carries on, because I think it will be really useful for everyone. Like all the guys coming up from who are just starting on the team through to the people who've been around a bit longer like me.
So they've done some testing here in this lab, some body measurements. We've tested flexibility, strength, power, and then we took them through into the S&C lab, and we kind of coached them a little bit, performing some essential lifts.
We'll be revisiting the university. The idea going forward is to form a strong partnership with the team to support the athletes moving towards the 2021 World Championships. And you know, this is just the start of a bigger program. Big aspirations for the athletes. We've got an amazing team. They're all dedicated. Good outlook on what the sport has to offer them. It's not all about performance, and it's not all about winning. You know, I think the main thing is these guys get the opportunity to, explore their potential, and in enjoying that and training hard, we will see podium results.